Prime Minister, I just wanted to ask about the constitutional changes. Two reconciliation committees in the past 2 years have recommended changing the composition of the Senate and also the clause on party dissolution. Why didn't the Cabinet take those up this time around, and do you plan to after the election?
Yeah, the issues that had been proposed by some committees, the Cabinet decided that wasn't appropriate to pursue. The party dissolution clause in particular was a very obvious decision for me to make. At the time, the Democrat Party still had a case in court. And if we try to submit that amendment to Parliament, it would only be seen as trying to absolve ourselves or to grant ourselves some kind of amnesty. That wasn't really possible. It's not something that we would do ideologically. The other amendments that you particularly want to...
The composition of
the Senate. Again, it was, the timing would be that it would complicate the selection of senators that is actually happening right now. But now we've got even more radical proposals. For instance, the Sombat Commission is now appearing to be recommending a fixed-term parliament and so on. But I think these issues are best dealt with through elections and campaigns. And my thought is that probably the easiest way to achieve these reforms or these changes would be to have some kind of commission outside Parliament that would deal with, that would be empowered to do these things. It would take out all the issues and conflicts surrounding whether we have conflict of interest if you were to pass or to block certain amendments.
I wanted to ask, how confident are you that the lead up to the elections themselves, and the post-election period will be peaceful, conducted fairly, and will lead to reconciliation here in Thailand when you have such deep political divisions? Thank you.
Well, I've been surprised that in recent months when I talk about early elections, the people who have been demanding them appear to step back a little. But I think it's my determination that we go through with this and use this as an opportunity for the Thai people. At the very least, it's an opportunity for the silent majority, or the majority of Thai people who have not been heard nearly enough over the last couple of years. We've had very loud groups of people, but they don't make up the majority. Their voices have been heard, loud and clear, but for the majority of Thais, a lot of them feel that their voices have been ignored. The ballot box is a way by which they can express their wishes. So I hope that that helps us achieve peaceful elections and also reconciliation after. Obviously, some of the conflicts will continue, but I think with a fresh mandate and a new government, we have chances of achieving relative stability in politics.
Prime Minister Abhisit, if new elections are held and there's a change in government, this could be your last opportunity to address the Foreign Correspondents Club in this capacity. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you would like your legacy to be seen during this difficult time for Thailand.
Well, I hope that these last 2 years will at least be remembered as a period where we had a government, as I said, that steered the economy through the crisis, allowed the political institutions to work again, since they were in paralysis just before we came in, and most significantly that there are a number of initiatives that had been undertaken to create greater security and welfare for the Thai people began systematically during these last 2 years.
Prime Minister, do you think that the majority of Thai people really care who wins the next general election, given that they'll end up with the the same powerful police and military, the same monolithic civil service, the same massive companies that dominate the economy, and honestly, the same politicians shuffled around a bit. Do you really think that they care whether it's going to be a Democrat-led coalition or a Party-led coalition? What difference will it for them? What difference will it make for them? What difference can you make? Thank you.
No, I'm absolutely confident that they care, and I'm absolutely confident that the majority will go out to vote. And if they didn't care, I don't think they'd go out to vote. We have quite a high turnout in our general elections. And it is going to make a difference. I cannot think of another election where they have such clear choices. What we stand for and what the Pheu Thai party stands for are completely different. And it is for the people to decide which direction they want to go. And I'm sure that it will be an election that they will take a keen interest in. They will vote in large numbers. And therefore, it is something for all Thais to care about and really make sure that it is an opportunity for us to move forward.
Peter Jansen, followed by Nirmal.
And I should add that the same doubts that you have about the political system here applies almost worldwide, actually, about people caring.
Prime Minister Abhisit, a year ago at the same forum, I asked you, or I commended you and the Democrats for pushing this asset tax, and I said, why would you do this? It's not going to help you gain any votes in Bangkok or probably not at the Northeast either. And you said, because it's the right thing to do. A year later, you still haven't pushed it through. Are you going to push this through before the elections come up? And a tag-on question, Kunanan Panuyachun has suggested a maximum land holdings of 50 rai, and I think you've objected to it. I mean, why are you opposed to this, if I've got that right, yeah?
Yep, it is the right thing to do. And just before I came here, I talked to Finance Minister Korn that we want this bill back from the Juridical Council before Parliament is dissolved so that we can forward it to Parliament. And according to the Constitution, after the elections, the new government can actually confirm the submission of law straight away. So we are definitely moving ahead with the asset tax law, which we now tie in with the land bank that we are setting up, so that a portion of that of the revenues of that asset tax will go to a land bank that will help find more land for the poor. So we're definitely going ahead with that. On Kunanan's recommendation, no, we haven't actually said no to what he has said in terms of land holding. But we're trying to get to the details, because in the report that he sent us, he only mentioned, he didn't mention the issue of companies and legal entities holding land. And we wanted to know what he thought about that, because there is a debate about the most efficient use of land for agriculture. But we already support his recommendations, and will pursue some of the recommendations that we can implement straight away, which is the database issue of land holding. And also, we are in the process of implementing the idea that there should be special zones of land that would be reserved for agriculture and farmers. But the detailed 50 rai limit, which in his report actually is tied to the progressive tax rate, is something that we're working out in terms of details with him, his committee, and also with the government agencies.
You've spoken a lot about the rule of law since taking office, restoration of the rule of law and so forth. Now, accountability is clearly part of the rule of law. Yet Thailand seems to have a very long track record of what some institutes, NGOs and so forth call impunity. We're going back just recent years to the war on drugs, then Crusade, and Takbai, Somchai Nila Paijit, then the political violence in Bangkok, the clashes on the streets. Do you think you've really achieved anything in furthering the principle of accountability, or do you think the systems you're really up against a very entrenched system? Thank you.
Well, there's certainly entrenched elements that we face, but you mentioned two things, at least things that have taken place during my tenure. First is the violence in the South. And the way we are dealing with some of the incidents, like the mosque shooting and some cases involving religious leaders, is clearly different from the way previous governments have dealt with. So we are pushing as hard as we can to bring the people who have committed these acts to account. There's more work that needs to be done by the police. They had actually arrested the person, but they didn't have the witnesses to confirm the identity of the man. But now we're working on DNA and other evidence to see whether we can proceed with that. At the same time, with the incidents that took place last year and the year before on the streets of Bangkok, well, I was interested to, intrigued to hear Jatuporn actually criticizing us for providing the names of the soldiers who were on the Sky Train near the temple. He said that was an act of betrayal or double-crossing that took place between us and the army. No, it wasn't. It was us showing our determination that we want to get to the bottom of the truth and that all agencies must cooperate with the commission investigating what actually took place. And the army has no problem with that.
Prime Minister, last year you spoke to us about ending Thai people's reliance on His Majesty the King in times of difficulty. What progress has been made under your administration in this regard? Your administration has seen a record number of lèse-majesté cases. The Computer Crimes Act has stood in for lèse-majesté for all intents and purposes when that law could not be applied. We've seen arrests of flip-flop vendors, DVD dealers, and a reliance on these kinds of laws.
I think you're mixing two issues. The first is the role of monarchy. And I think it's absolutely clear that the monarchy has remained above partisan politics. And that is certainly one way in which I think we are moving beyond what you said was reliance on this institution as far as resolving some political issues are concerned. On the lèse-majesté law, I think, again, I mentioned that we set up an advisory board on this. They've made some progress, resolved some cases, and they'll do more. And they've now been instructed to also look at the Computer Crimes Act to deal with the issue as well. So we're making progress.
What would we see under another term of your prime ministership?
Sorry, what?
What would we see in terms of progress?
Well, I hope that the advisory board will be able to lay down clear precedents and guidance as to how the law should be enforced as far as computer crimes and lèse-majesté is concerned.
Can I just add?
Ironically, actually, their work was very much stalled during the demonstrations and the aftermath because it became too sensitive an issue.
Can you just explain if this body is set up under your government? So if you didn't happen to return as Prime Minister, would this body still exist?
Well, it's up to the next Prime Minister.
Mr. Prime Minister, 2 years ago, you spoke before this august body, and you said to Mrs. Ankana Nilapai-Chit, when she asked regarding the case involving her husband, says, "Yes, I'll do my very best. I believe that there's a good chance that there will be progress in terms of the investigations." Now, she's just recently lost an appeals court case. Her life still seems to be under threat, and there seems to be less progress. How do you respond, sir? Thank you.
Yep. At the time, if you recall, there were hopes that maybe some remains of his body were found in a certain province, and we thought that that was going to give us quite crucial evidence to make progress on the case. Unfortunately, after testing of DNA and so on, it proved not to be. And that has made it very difficult to make more progress. We were very, very hopeful, genuinely hopeful then, that we would make progress from that situation. I've spoken to Kun Ankana a number of times, on many, many occasions, and She has told me about the problems that she faces, and I can assure you that I do take her complaints and case seriously, and I'm doing all I can to get all the agencies to make sure that these problems are addressed. But as far as the court cases are concerned, it is the discretion of the courts.
So there's nothing else you can do at this point in time?
No, we're still asking the police and all the agencies to continue. And I'm in constant touch with Kunankana to let her know of any progress, and she would let me know of any problems that she was facing. We still have every intention to pursue the case.
We're all scratching around for stories here, so we noticed that there was some red sauce in the dessert plate, some yellow sauce on the dessert plate. We didn't see any blue sauce, so we were kind of wondering what that meant. And maybe you could shed some light on what the role of blue might be in a future administration. But I wanted to ask you more broadly and more importantly about a story that some of us have covered, the revolutions in the Middle East. Watching that from here, have you seen parallels with what happened last year? And do you think about your job any differently, just seeing all of these convulsions in the Arab world?
Blue sauce? Well, the idea of having these elections is that we can perhaps become colorblind. We move beyond colors. That we really address the issues that really matter to most people in Thailand who don't classify themselves as either yellow or red or blue. So I'm just saying that what we want to do now is to move beyond these conflicts and really have the Thai people speak as loud as they can what they want to see for their future. I look at the situation in the Middle East, and the one thing that I see clearly, and I get asked about this when I travel as well, is that it matters that you have certain institutions in place so that you can respond to people. I think countries that have elements of democratic institutions will be able to absorb these kinds of shocks or conflicts better. And without these institutions, anything goes. And I think we begin to see that distinction very clearly. And I think a number of countries that are now responding to the challenges they face is clearly to start thinking and building up institutions.
Mr. Prime Minister, the Thai baht has strengthened dramatically over the last 2 years. By 2015, many estimate the baht could be at 23 to $1 US. What